ones. There was one group, I can't remember the name of it. Very well funded. Was it We? It wasn't WeGo or Venture Next. I can't remember. One of them basically wants to put beacons like all over hotels and things like. They want to get in the hotel space. They've done, I think it's Levi's Stadium out in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So you can have delivery of food to your seats and things like. So you want the nachos from the place that's on the third deck, 40 sections away. Makes a lot of sense. For hotel, I don't know. But these guys had actually gotten $1.5 million of funding. They were in the battleground thing, so they shouldn't have really been there. But when they applied, they didn't have funding, and then they got funding. It was kind of like maybe throw them into some, don't have them take a spot, sort of thing. But yeah, that was an interesting one. I don't know. I just don't see it for hotels. Yeah, maybe really large, the Phoenician or something like that. Maybe.
Well, I was going to say resorts, Vegas, Orlando.
Yeah.
There's the Caribbean. There are certainly places where that makes sense.
Yeah, but but even in Vegas, they kind of want them to wander through the casino to go get through. They don't want to make it too easy to go. Right. Like if you're sitting at a slot machine or a table, maybe it's like, the guy's playing craps. You really want him having his steak brought over? I don't know.
Sure.
But anyway, they'll figure it out. Leave it to the Vegas guys. They'll figure it out. If they make more money on the table because the guy's distracted,
you'll leave the table. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So they had that, and then I'm trying to think of there were a few others, but it was a lot of stuff. They had I know another one was Wago, and this one, I mean, it was just like, why are you here? Really cool technology, but not to denigrate the travel industry, but this was kind of a holy crap. It was instantaneous. He's back on his phone.
Problems today.
I love you. I tell you what, I'm going to stay mobile because I can't. We're recording on the laptop. I can see myself on the laptop, but I can only communicate on my phone. I have no idea where my Wi-Fi is going right now, but we're just going to leave it as this for right now.
I don't know. It may be a blab. That's like the blab problem I had before. It was just really bizarre. But
yeah. Well, sorry, gentlemen, for the distraction. Go ahead, please.
No. The Wago thing was basically you take your phone, you go like this, you point it at words, and instantaneous, real-time translation to Chinese or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. So kind of augmented reality type thing, and very cool.
Actually, Google Translate does that quite well already. So that's interesting that
these guys
they're focused on that as a core function, as a core capability.
Yeah, well, these guys started, they're in the battleground section, right, where it's the cheap, the bare bones startup saying, oh yeah, and our round of funding, we've got, Dave McClure, Ron Conway, and you're like, what? Why are you here?
But there's also some good apps that are out there right now. The Translate one is amazing. It's connected to the watch also, so that you can literally go up to somebody, they can talk at you, and you get it translated in real time. And
that's right.
It's considering the traveling opportunities for that, and then what's the other one? And not just Google Goggles, but there's another app that you can take the picture of a sign, and it'll translate it actually on the image is what the sign is saying.
Oh, well, this one does that, but it's real-time video. It does it in video in real time. So it recognizes and just pow. It's pretty amazing.
It's pretty
I was in France a couple of weeks ago. I used the Google Translate app for that pretty fair bit, and it worked really well. The one place, it's kind of funny, the one place where it did not work well at all was in the Louvre. Because, of course, in the Louvre, all the signs are domains specific to the art world. So, of course, there's all these terms that nobody uses unless you're talking about art, right?
Yeah.
So that was the one place where it kind of failed miserably. But, I mean, you pointed at a menu, it was terrific. You pointed at streets, it was terrific. So, yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious why. Like, what's their play there? How do they do something that, isn't being done by Google?
Yeah. Well, there was another group, actually, that did, it was amazing for museums and things like that. They'd put, again, beacons all over the place, and you'd come in and just be able to do really cool stuff. But again, I kind of looked at that and went, wow, that's a lot. Then yes, they want to do it for hotels and all this stuff, but you kind of, how long does it take to set up the museum? Oh, sometimes a month or two. And you're like, that's not going to scale well. So, really cool stuff and really tied in, and you can do just really neat, really neat things, but it's like that's a really slow process. Oh, and it was like I think $50,000 up front and 10 or $20,000 a month or something. Or it was a big number. So you go,
hey,
okay.
I want to be selfish because I missed you, Tim, last week when you were on Blab. Thank you for being here, even though I didn't get the chance to make it. But I'm, now that the dust is kind of not settling, but it's kind of creeping out, rippling out to everything going on, I'd love to just kind of wrap up some of the conversation I missed about the whole Marriott Starwood acquisition thing, and get back to some of now that people have had the time to digest it a little bit and say, okay, so what does that mean? Because for me, having worked with both, that's a oil and water scenario. I mean, literally, Starwood operated successfully, almost being contra to Marriott's program, and now they have to be assimilated, and resistance is futile. I mean, I've seen what Marriott did with Gaylord in all its entities, and I just look at it and say, my gosh, how are they going to absorb that without it affecting them internally? So I just want to throw it back out because I'm selfish. I didn't get the chance to talk with either of you last week when this came up as a topic. So I'd love to go over and see if we can go back.
Yeah, and I missed it too. Yeah, that's very hot topic. It's
Robert, you want to go first or?
Oh, sure. Somebody actually, I think Henry Hardevelt was calling it Marwood or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that's not what it's only going to be Marriott. I said, imagine a lion encountering a water buffalo. Okay. There might be some fur or bones left over, but you can't really identify that it belonged to the buffalo. There will be no more Starwood. Okay. It's going to be gone sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and that's it. Now, the fun thing that's happening, hopefully there's a particular individual who I really hope comes through. We're going to do a Deadpool, some sort of Deadpool competition on the brands. Like, what's the last brand stand? Yeah. So everybody's picked. The obvious one is 4 Points, which everyone agrees should have been sunset 2 decades ago, which coincidentally was the time it launched.
Yeah.
So, that's
all right. I have a question.
That's one of them. But then, what really interesting things, Renaissance to Westin and...
Well, okay. I have more of a tangible question. For a long time, they've been going head-to-head in market. We're already dealing with brand saturation. I mean, the brand has oversold itself at different market tiers. Marriott represents itself in different layers within the same market. How are they going to assimilate head-to-head competition where there's a Westin in the same DMA and a full flag Marriott on the same DMA? How are they going to share digital space? I mean, they've already, competitive-wise, it's fine. But now, how are they going to be all frenemies? How are they going to be able to share the same level market tier in the same market?
So I've got a thought about this. Let me start with the obvious. I made a prediction last week. I made a bold prediction last week that I don't think is that bold a prediction, actually. That I think that the obvious first brand to go is going to either be Tribute or Autograph, right? Because in the soft brand space, they're both new enough. They both, minimal enough penetration that there's no need for both. And as a soft brand, you don't need 2 soft brands.
And I would say Tribute would go. It's a smaller portfolio, easily assimilated into Autograph, and you're done.
So that to me is the place where immediately one of those 2 dies, right? Because there's just not a need for 2 different soft brands.
Right.
Okay? But when you're talking about when you have the overlap, you're talking to an Ascendant guy. We used to deal with that all the time, right? We had Ramadas, and we had Days Inns, and we had Super 8s, and we had Travelodges, and we had Howard Johnson's on corner after corner after corner. Yep. It's a manageable process. Is there a definite frenemy situation there? Well, of course there is, because the individual franchisees, the individual management companies, the individual hoteliers certainly want to make sure that they're getting their space. Yeah. And I realize when we're talking about, economy scale, it's going to be slightly different from mid-scale or upper mid or things along those lines. But that's a manageable process to basically say, okay, here's the kinds of things we're going to do for property A. Here's the kinds of things we're going to do for property B. Here's the guidelines that we put in place, et cetera.
And I mean that's why this merger happened. It is completely a room density play, right? I mean, that's it. All these brands, that's why they're doing the soft brands. How can they get more rooms into X market territory? Now, the question I really think that's interesting is, how do they resolve some of the brands? Because Sheraton is not the strongest brand. It's certainly good reputation internationally. They've got a lot of hotels, things like that.
Well,
but they hadn't advertised it for.
They've been trying to retool that for a year now. I mean, they were supposed to go into a whole brand reno here.
And did you see their ads? The $100 million ad campaign was sorry anybody was Starwood. It was horrible. Okay?
It was terrible.
It is ugly. You got an ugly baby. I'm really sorry. You gotta know your baby is but classic thing. You put your thumb over the logo and you go, what's this brand? It's like it's completely generic.
Robert, on the sidebar, personally, do you actually walk up and somebody says, look at my beautiful baby, and you go, wow, that's a baby? That is
the essence of my more times than not in my consulting practice, I am the ugly baby guy. We get back to I want a mobile app, and it's like, well, why?
Right.
And, well, they don't know why. Sort of thing. They just want it, and you just hang on. Let's
not at this moment, but maybe before we tail end off this. What about Google's new platform of capability of being able to query data out of apps and pull it into SERP results? Just as a later thought, if we get to it today or not.
We should definitely.
That's very cool. One. Oh, the other thing that Google announced last week, right? And they've now got an A-team guy running travel. Not that Jeremy wasn't. I mean, Jeremy, brilliant guy from ITA Software, but he's an air guy, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. I think Oliver was with. I think he was the YouTube guy. I'm not sure, but he's in Geneva. I think, or Zurich. I think second largest. Development center for him. I mean, really smart guy from everything I've heard. What they're doing though is they're going to be doing air and hotel simultaneous. Everything's like destination focused, and it's very weird how hotel finder has been sunset, and the current user interface is just awful, right? I mean, it's really, really bad. It's like 2005 meta search, really, really ugly. But
Robert, if I can jump in for 1 second.
Sure.
And this is one of the few times you'll hear me do this. I actually called the fact that Hotel Finder was going to go away 2 years ago, because meta search and OTA are the same thing, right? Yeah. These aren't companies. These aren't services. These are features, right?
Yep.
So they're just consolidating the features. Now, I agree with you. They've got some user experience things they need to work out. They've got, a lot that needs to happen there. But the simple fact of it is, look at what Expedia is now doing. Look at what TripAdvisor is now doing. Look at what Kayak is now doing. Look at what Orbitz is doing with the ads that they're bringing in from, I can never think of the name of the company, something.
Yes.
OTA and Meta and Search are all just one set of features that collectively say, is this the right property? Is this the right hotel for your specific needs? Right. That's what Google is doing more and more of.
Yeah. Well, except it's interesting because also that came out at this Focusrite conference. What kind of the difference between you got a GDS, you got an OTA, you got Meta, whatever. Certainly, Google. And those guys, Google, TripAdvisor, have zero interest in becoming an online travel agency from the booking support aspect, right? Oh, hurricanes, schedule changes with flights, all that's like, oh, no, we are advertising somebody else. So that's kind of a clear delineation there, right? And then you have the guys, kind of the agency booking thing, and then you've got, the suppliers, right? So you kind of have three nuanced camps, but user experience, it's like, who the heck cares?
And I would argue to a guest, they're never going to know the difference in that.
Right. They don't care. Yeah, they want the best price, and they want to kind of figure out what the heck's going on.
But they do want the tailored experience. They want that interaction.
Right. And if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and quacks like a duck, etc., to a guest, it's
well. The other thing with Google, so they got an A-team guy who's really going to be. It looks like they're serious about focusing on it, which is good. So the other thing though is they're treating it the same way as flight search. We're talking sub-second response time. It was because the flight search is just mind-bogglingly fast.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what they're so they're like kill it with speed. So they're kind of a little lax on the features, but they're getting the plumbing set up, I guess, right now, and they're doing air and hotel at the same time.
Yeah.
They aren't really doing packages of it, but it's like, boom. So you can kind of see, oh, there's my, what's going, oh, hey, yeah, maybe I can afford to go there because I can see what the airfare is, and that's what the hotel, and you don't have to go 2 places or sequential or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But what they have now isn't great, but I think
not an OTA from a guest perspective.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, from a guest perspective. Yeah. And it's destination focused.
Right. Right.
So they're, it's like, I can't remember if you typed in, I found it once, and it isn't in all the destinations. You do like Paris destination or Paris vacations or something, and you'll see it pop up because it'll say air from $400 round trip, hotel from, whatever, something else. So you can kind of see it, but it's a little bit hard to find and a little kludgy, but I don't know.
What they seem to be focused on, and actually I wrote a blog post about this, not pitching anything or whatever. Shameless.
Oh, we will pitch. We will pitch Tim Peter Thinks. I will pitch Tim Peter Thinks.
All day long. I love reading your stuff, Tim. Are you kidding me?
I
wrote
a quick blog post about this yesterday, actually, about how Google, they just put out some of their new, what do they call it? Their
booking,
with Google trends reports and the like, and they're focused on this whole micro moments idea.
Oh no,
right.
Think Google. Think Google is what you're
thinking
about.
Yeah,
think Google.
That's it. That's right. But it's they talked about these micro moments, right? Where you know, you want to go, you want to do that, you want to buy. Because I think what they get from what they see in search activity is this is how people self-segment into where are they in the funnel.
Right.
What they're doing is they're looking for, I think what they're doing, I shouldn't say what they're doing, but what it seems that they're doing is they're looking for what's the best possible answer at this point in the funnel for the needs of this specific guest.
Yeah.
And they'll figure out the user experience because that's changing as form factors change, as devices change, right? I think that's still a little more nebulous. Yeah. They're just looking to what's the question the guest has at this point in the process, and how do we best answer that to move them deeper into the funnel.
Yeah,
right.
And thus make their advertising product.
Two things with that. One, Carrie's asking, Tim, can you post the link in the chat box so that people, when they come back to this, they can go to your blog post?
Of course I can.
And the second is, having just come back from Google Partners out in San Jose, it really was their whole push about the micro moments as being, it's not a linear process as much as that's our way of defining the process of acquisition for the customer. It could be something that nobody decided. I mean, even the video that they have on YouTube for it is, I need to fix my car, or I just broke my watch band. It wasn't a planned purchase, or it wasn't a planned decision that at that moment they were looking for. And they're implying that travel is the same way, that travel is an inspirational thing, and that if you can find that moment when they're interested in the concept, it's not so much about the buildup of information as it is being in the right place with the right content that's relevant.
Right. Yeah. They refer, I know you've heard this, but I don't think I'm telling anybody here anything they haven't heard, but they refer to it as that zero moment of truth.
ZMOT, yep, right. ZMOT.
You get them right at that specific moment, right now, where they are, when they are, how they need to be responded to.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not, everybody's been always focused at the booking, right? Way down at the bottom of the funnel. I got them right now. I'm going to convert. It's like, oh no, all they're trying to do is figure out if you have 24-hour room service or if you have a swimming. Who knows what they're looking? They're looking for something. Well, and that may be a really, if you can give it to them quick and accurate and compellingly, and you go, wow, you see a nice, beautiful picture of the swimming pool. You go, oh wow, that's really great. Wow, they may come back 2 weeks later and then go book.
And that goes back to a statement that people are throwing around as a buzz thing, saying, "Oh, content is king, content is king." And funny that last week a discussion that we had was content isn't really king; it's the context of the content.
Yeah,
it's not just having it out there; it's the context of it, the relevancy to the person that's interested in it at the right time.
So, what I always say about that specifically, Lauren, and this is something I do in my talks. This is something I do when I teach. Is this idea?
Oh God! Now he's plugging his speaking.
No.
I'll do it all day long. I want people to know about Tim.
I will plug Tim here as a speaker, and I've never taken a class from him, but I would assume
shameless self promotion has got me where I am today, guys. No. It's what I always say is content is king, context is queen. And data is the crown jewels, right? Because it's when you bring those three things together, that's really when it all works.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that's the key of how you put those things together in a way. And Google does it better than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at the fight, for lack of a better word, between the hotel companies, between the suppliers, and between the OTAs. The OTAs have done a terrific job of investing in their data capabilities and understanding context such that they can put the right content in front of the guest at the right time and thus close the sale.
Right.
Bring this full circle to the Marriott Starwood conversation. I think one of the big wins for Marriott out of this, if they exploit it correctly and they use it correctly, is the amount of guest data that they're going to have.
Yeah.
Right? You bring SPG and Marriott Rewards together, and you get a really good sense of share of wallet of guests everywhere they stay.
I think that was the biggest statement out of all this, is that Marriott's not referring to themselves as Marriott anymore. They're referring to themselves as Marriott Rewards.
Yeah, totally.
You know, because as you say, data is king. It's at this point, we're on rented land with Google. We've all said this in our own ways and contexts. It's like we're on always this rented land, whether it be Facebook, Google, whatever. We have to play by their rules. We have to do things that they say we can or can't. But the data that we have is really the linchpin to being able to keep those relationships, so that we are in those micro moments as Google wants to define, or as you say, in the context of the content of knowing that they want to know about us. So yeah, that data acquisition between those two. I mean, the biggest pushback I think I've seen on the news about this is from blogs and just general postings is the frustration of the Starwood membership as to knowing what does that mean.
Right.
If I'm a Diamond member, and I thought Hyatt did a brilliant job. Not that it was new or different, but a brilliant job. The first thing they did was they targeted and reached out to everybody that was in the Starwood program to say, we'll honor your level automatically with the Hyatt program.
Well, the middle class SPG members are hosed.
Yeah, they're screwed.
Right.
They got nothing. They don't even get a bottle of water there. They don't get nothing.
Right. Well, I mean, we all went through the same thing. I'm sure, whatever programs you're in, like I'm a United guy because I live in New Jersey and I fly to Newark and things like that. And when United and what do you call it? Continental. I went from getting upgrades all the time to,
back of the plane.
Oh no! Let me tell you, my wife's my wife's retired from Northwest, right? They were acquired by Delta, and so we've got some flight benefits. But one of the interesting things is when you log in, you can see all the standby lists, and you should see the length of the upgrades. It's unbelievable. Oh, sure. You'll see something. It's got 12 first class seats. There are 50 people on the upgrade list. It's insanity.
Dallas is the same way. It's like I was going to Chicago for the HAMA conference, and I'm thinking, I'm gold. I might get on the plane a little early. That is such a business route.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was like they didn't get past Diamond Platinum before the plane was full. I think I was the last person on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the Starwood, core membership, the bulk of their membership.
Right.
If that's the place where this Marriott Starwood thing could go badly, because I don't think it will necessarily.
No, neither do I.
But the devaluation of the membership, if you're not the elite, is something where they could really hurt themselves with guests potentially. Now, will that happen? Who could say?
Well, Starwood is a richer program than SPG is a richer program than Rewards when you just look on a pure kind of percentage basis. So I think they'll keep everything kind of status quo, get everything kind of sorted out with the brand, merge them together, try to keep everybody and everything's honored. But then someplace down the line, it's going to get resolved, and the linchpin I really think is going to be the credit cards, because Starwood was on with their Amex and Marriott's with Chase, and that's the hard stuff to really sort out, because they've got people with all these Amex points, and they got all these people with these Chase. Those things you don't just really cross that those programs easily, and they're under contract. Who knows what the breakup fees or what's the.
I tell you what, from a tactical point of view, if there's any major brand hotel, or not major brand, just a major hotel that has inventory that they're competing with against Starwood or against Marriott right now, they would be smart to go on Facebook, target out everybody that's following the membership rewards programs of both. Do the address selection and center around it, and say anybody that's a traveler coming into that database, start tagging them on some retargeting ads that say, hey,
Yeah.
you come to this market and you might be frustrated with Starwood. We got a better product and we're going to give you better rewards than you're going to get from the new relationships that are going to come out of this merger. I mean, I'd actually start targeting poaching them and take them out of take that opportunity.
Oh yeah. I got to think Hilton, if they're smart, they start jumping all over this. And but again, the other thing is going to be, what are all the other roll-ups? What's going to happen now, right? Because I think another domino is tipped. Certainly, Fairmont's in play. That's going to get picked up by somebody. Maybe Four Seasons. I don't know. Yeah, they're kind of some inkling. They've been growing super fast, but same.
They have to answer to a lot of people, though.
What?
They have to answer to a lot of people, though.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of splinters down at the property level of who has what for where. So.
Oh no, I know. But again, Hyatt. I mean, I'm still stunned that Hyatt was seriously making, or I didn't think Hyatt was seriously making a run for Starwood, my understanding is their bid was $4 billion short. So I don't know how serious it was, because let alone what Marriott paid was $500 million less. That Monday morning announcement was $500 million less than their market cap on Friday, right? So it wasn't exactly this big premium over what was getting paid, but Hyatt apparently really wanted it. But I got to think Hyatt would be in play, because their shareholders are going to say, what's going on with you? I'm not sure what happens with Intercon and Wyndham. Smaller guys, be it Red Lion or a lot of the smaller ones, I think start getting track, because all of a sudden, again, it's this room density thing. How do you get these things in? Turf war, and
but then you also got to begin wondering too, how is the pricing strategy going to change in some of these markets that there is, as you said, high density for now, an aggregated brand. I mean, if they already Marriott, because of its branding in a market, or Starwood for its branding in a market, had a good market presence as to pricing, availability, occupancies, and so forth. And now you're combining even more data points into a market, and how is that going to affect everybody that's not them in that market? Do they follow? Do they lead? Do they tier above? I mean, they got some hard decisions to make on how they're going to compete in that space.
No, you start. I think you start looking between a Sheraton, a Westin, a Marriott, JWs. All their big, the large, full scale, hundreds of rooms. That's an issue.
Okay,
the lofts and things like that, because they're so small, that's okay. I think those can survive and go. And they might decide to kill it or not. But I don't know. I'm not sure what happens between AC and Moxie and a loft. They can sort that stuff out. But between Sheraton and Westin, those two brands were 66% of Starwood's rooms. I mean, that's a lot of stuff.
Here's a weird thought. Here's just a weird thought. That the brands, Marriott and everything, what do they have between them? They have 131 variable brands between the major brands that exist, because they're trying to fit that flavor of brand to the demographic profile. Well, maybe they created their own self-annihilation. And just as a weird thought, that by doing this aggregation, it has turned into the anti of what people wanted. And now Airbnb turns into a viable option of saying, you know what, I'm tired of this aggregation. I'm tired of this monopolistic combination. Yeah. I'm tired of this homogenous development. And I don't like talking to just one big monster. You know what? Airbnb there's some validity going to it. They're beginning to pay taxes, whatever it is. And next thing you know, it turns into an option in a market. And they might have created their own demise by pushing it to this level.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree on the Airbnb. And I saw one of the analysts, Wall Street analysts I work with, came out with something and didn't get my input. Damn it! He reached out. I didn't respond, or I don't know what happened. But on the Airbnbs, it was just like, oh, it's not that big a deal. And it's like, well, no, it's
a huge deal,
a very big deal. And their rationale was, oh, because the hotel companies are so strong into quote corporate, and it's like, well, yeah, and look at what Airbnb already came out. Their focus, I mean, their CMO at, I think, Skiff Conference, basically came out and said, what's their focus for next year? Vacation rentals. So they're coming after HomeAway, which I'm sure is what spurred, Expedia grabbing HomeAway quick before the war began. And then second, corporate. And you go, because you look at the owner not present full unit rentals in New York City, for a hotel, the ADR is $275.
Right.
For Airbnb, it's $175.
Yeah.
That's a
That's
big.
the problem that Airbnb brings to the table is as more inventory comes into play in any given market, I mean, it's just supply and demand. It's going to have a negative impact on ADRs for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure, for certain. You know, the one place where I think the Marriott Starwood thing, Lauren, I don't know if I am entirely married to this idea of what I'm going to say. It's just the way I've been looking at it is sort of exactly the opposite of what you're saying, where if they keep, and you could well be right, I want to be really clear. But if they keep the different brands, you know, we've talked for years about personalizing the experience and things along those lines, and they define those brands correctly, it does become a way to personalize the stay to the need.
Good point. That is a good point. Yes.
Right now, now, if they make them all homogenous, I agree with what you said 1,000,000%. They will likely fail miserably because when you try to be all things to all people, you will be nothing to anybody.
Right. Yeah, and that's what's happened with Sheraton, right? Sheratons are
with an Airbnb, but as more room inventory comes into play in a given market, that undoubtedly puts negative pressure on ADR.
I completely agree with you. And if they can get the individual branding correct, that it touches to the market that they're designing it for, I completely agree that they're going to hit that, because then now they have the whole value asset of its portability into other things as they mature through the market. You know, as they get older and have different demand and requirements.
And as guests, and I'm so sorry for cutting you off.
No.
Quick, but as guests go online and go to Marriott.com or, you know, whatever domain they go to, you know, I know this from my past. I know this from the various brands I've worked with over the years. The more opportunities you have to say yes when a guest says, "Do you have a place for me to stay?" the more often they actually stay there. So obviously, by having the room aggregation, by having room density, they've improved their conversion rate from a pure guest perspective. Definitely, because there's just more opportunities to then say yes when it says, "You have something for me," right? That, as long as they do say this kind of property works for this kind of guest, for this kind of stay, and is very clear about what the brand is. Right. Otherwise, what you said could absolutely become true.
No, I agree with you on that. When I was at the hospitality asset, oh, by the way, shameless plug for me. My my comment in my the Skift article that I was quoted in just came out about Hyatt taking on my, Messenger. Since we're doing shameless plugs. Yeah, so it did pop out. You mentioned Skift, and anyway, the HAMA conference I was speaking at, the PKF went in and was showing. They scraped the data geographically of the Airbnb inventory in the DMA markets domestically. Right. And what was fun out of the process, and I'm sure they went into farther detail than they shared, but you can pull this kind of data out. We're not using it as a revenue control tool in our rate parities, our rate controls, our inventory to market, our competitive set to market. We still have people sitting with their head in the sand in markets saying Airbnb is not an impact competitor to me.
Right.
You know, and they're not looking at the, like Robert, you pointed out, New York, the ADR is $100 less in an Airbnb world. And the faster and more that Airbnb can create the value proposition of individual value that they're tailoring to the individual consumer, not because of to the point of having a lot of places to stay, but because they like the place that they have the relationship with. Yep. Then if we don't start putting that into the hotel revenue management stream as data that should be used to better do our yieldability as revenue managers at hotels, we're going to be faced with not knowing why our business is going down, but realizing somebody put a dam farther up the river.
But it's already happening in New York City.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a market difference. There are 19,000 Airbnb units in New York City. However, the hotel industry can't deal with it because those aren't available every night, 365 days a year, right? It's this variable demand and high demand. Like when the Pope was in town, the hotels are going, why aren't we sold out? This is crazy. We should, our rates should be going up here. What's that? Well, all of a sudden, supply expanded.
They showed a correlation that the inventory that is available. No, it's a common sense statement, but they showed that numerically, where there's high demand markets, there's the highest inventory available in Airbnb. I mean,
absolutely.
At least it was substantiated by provability, but still, it is a demand driven market. And if the demand's there, the old days of what rack is on the back of the door doesn't apply anymore because
And-
they got another place to go.
Just wait till the next downturn is all I can say. Because all of a sudden you get people, they've been laid off, whatever. Hey, we can rent this out. Here's, always, they don't have corporate ownership. I mean, certainly, well, the major hotel brands, intense pressure for growth. They want to see, all sorts of growth. It's getting big pressure on unit growth. They want ADR growth. They want occupancy growth. Occupancy growth is getting tough because we're at all-time records. ADR growth is getting tough. We're at all-time records. And all of a sudden, you've got kind of this.
Well, also, too, when you're looking at the Smith Travel, even the PKF, there's not a lot of supply going in the pipe. You would think right now, normally, historically, what is the 18-month cycle?
Market. Yes.
That all of a sudden you start seeing this infusion of inventory growth in markets. You're not seeing the jump to that as fast, I think, as you historically had seen, because they're just kind of sitting there saying, let's ride the ride and get the revenue and not so much put inventory in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, an acquisition cost, if you're in a luxury or upscale property, still much more cost effective to acquire something than to build it from scratch. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's Robert, it's what you do.
I want to build on what you said a moment ago because I agree with you. And when we think about who's the next domino to fall, right? I think that will certainly be where the dominoes really all start to fall over all at once. This is something I've been talking about for a little bit, where if you are a public company, right, which a lot of the larger hotel players are, and you take a 10% hit to your top line or bottom line and have to report that in a quarter to the street, you're as good as toast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Your access to capital is going to get a lot worse. You're going to be in much bigger trouble. And that is certainly going to drive, I think, a lot of consolidation in the next downturn. Because they're going to be in a position where they have to turn around and say to the street, well, we missed our numbers, and we missed our numbers by a lot, right? When I talk about Airbnb is going to kill some companies, I don't mean the company is going to go out of business.
No.
They're going to miss their numbers by 10%, and the street is going to beat the crap out of them.
Look at what happened to Fritz
to become an acquisition target because it's their only, it's the only way they actually get access to capital.
Right.
Look at what happened to Fritz with Starwood. What did they do? They didn't really miss their numbers in a huge way.
No.
They missed their supply growth, right? They forecast 4%. They came in at like 2.5 or something like that. Oops, didn't quite happen quite as quick. But
and
Marriott and Hilton,
Fritz,
they just missed their numbers. They were below their competitors.
Yeah,
and they're like, you're gone. So what happens? Fritz has shown the door rather unceremoniously. And their stock price pops 3% with no plan of, here's a new CEO. Okay, Adam's coming in as kind of an interim guy. That's okay. That's not horrible or anything. But boom, stock price goes up 3% because we got that guy out of here. And what do they announce? Tribute. Oh, we're doing this. We're doing $100 million on share. Quick to put this stuff together. Yeah, and then. A month or two later, hey, we're in play, and 6 months later, boom, they've been acquired.
But I think there's other influences into the market as to where it's trending too. Is that with Google taking pretty much all top line SERP information, real estate, as to their presence, their information to be helpful and relevant, and as they tailor the experience to you, now all of a sudden the Airbnb inventories and so forth, and this goes to our conversation about big brand, even if they are individually brand tailored. Is if the relationship turns to something that Google can refer to data and be specific about how it gives you results, then it can begin to tailor that data regardless of whether you're part of the big mothership of Marriott or whether you're the mom and pop of the airport. It's going to start popping what it knows you like based on all that it knows about you.
Well,
absolutely.
And the big one is this asset light strategy that all the hotel groups have certainly adopted. Again, pressure from Wall Street, make this look good with your balance sheet. Hey, get all that stuff off your balance sheet. Wow, look at these profits. This is great. Starwood was purchased. Okay, that's fine. What, 1,200 properties, something like that? They owned less than 40.
Yeah.
So Hyatt owns less than 30. My favorite, Intercontinental Hotels Group, they own 9 properties.
I didn't know it got that low. That's
9.
Wow.
And they manage 465 out of 4,800 hotels. So what happens is all of a sudden it's just a brand. They don't have a lot of other stuff. And what do you see? the brands, the hotel brands start behaving a lot more and looking a lot more, and they hate me to say this, like OTAs, right? This is another ugly baby comment.
They're a commonality. I mean, they're providing service based.
Well, and if you look at Hilton,
and they're a flag.
Yeah, well, since I've picked on other guys, let's pick on Hilton, right? So might as well. So Hilton has a situation. If you look at VHS's franchise reports, right, the franchise fees for if you're a Hampton Inn, right, the fees that go to Hilton are 13.9% of room revenue. Now, this isn't the oh my God, Booking.com's charging me 15%. That's outrageous.
No, this is every dime, every dollar.
Was directly responsible for those bookings.
Yeah, this is every dime, every dollar.
Everything. Wow. It doesn't matter that somebody falls in drunk onto your doorstep with their credit card in their hand. Bing, they got 13.9%.
I think this blab is going to turn into the thing that everybody in brand is saying, don't go listen to. Don't go listen to this blab. Do not listen to this blab.
But this is a bad situation. So you're looking at, here goes 13.9% to Hilton. Oh, it came in through Booking.com, who's a great organization. They produce bookings. I just finished a white paper for Focusrite that is actually sponsored by well, I did two. One sponsored by Accor, one sponsored by TripAdvisor.
So to say,
I don't get anything out of it.
We were only missing one. Robert had to join the party.
I did it too. It's okay. I'm just teasing you, Robert.
When I traveled to Riviera, I went to Harvard.
And I think they'll be free, actually. I'm pretty sure they'll be free. I don't know. I have no idea. I just write the stuff, right? But on both of these, you looked at one of the questions, and we surveyed a bunch of hotels in Europe, a bunch in the U.S. What is the most independent hotels, right? What is the most effective booking channel for you? Booking.com. We're talking 80s. Now, there's all sorts of things they don't like about fees and stuff like that, but it's effective. Weirdly, number 2 booking channel, TripAdvisor.
Sure.
In the 50s.
Yeah. They're smart with their
down in the 40s, and then way in the U.S. and way below. Now again, that's perception versus what's. But you look at those numbers and go, "Holy crap!"
TripAdvisor. In the age of TripAdvisor, right? Your brand is only as good as your last review.
Yep.
Right.
Period. Right.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna go to bat for the brands here for a second. Right.
Yeah.
We'll make this like point counterpoint. No, where I think the brands are. First of all, I agree with everything you said. Right. So right out of the gate, I agree. I also think that where the brands who are doing well, it's because they are focusing on having a really well-defined brand value proposition,
right,
and enforcing quality so that guests actually receive that brand value proposition with every stay, so that then they write great reviews about, I stayed at the Aloft, or I stayed at the, insert brand X here, right?
Yeah.
And if they do that well, I am a big believer that brand has value still, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
As long as you actually maintain a brand standard.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
When they don't maintain a brand standard, then you're 100% right. They are no better than an OTA, because then it becomes, is this specific property good, as opposed to, is this W, is W where I want to stay,
right,
give my loyalty, or things like that.
And I'd even add to that, the perception is almost more important than the reality of it, because
for sure,
you can mess up on one hotel and it resonates to the brand in its entirety because of that. So you could de facto ruin a person's perception on the entire value proposition by a single experience because of the exposure that these platforms like TripAdvisor give now.
Well, and when I worked, and I think I can say this, I don't think I'm disclosing anything I'm not allowed to say, but I used to work for the leading hotels of the world. And when I was there, the last couple of years I was there, we actually had a real big push to get rid of properties that were not to leading standards. We actually shrank as a company intentionally, because we had some hotels that were undoubtedly hurting leading's value proposition, because people went there and they said, this is not a leading hotel of the world.
Right.
And leading being a soft brand, right? I credit Ted and the work he's done there and his team have done there, both while I was there and in the years since I've left, because they've really said being a leading hotel of the world needs to mean something if we're going to endure for the next 10, 20, 30
Right.
years.
Right. And that's
I think Marriott and
Absolutely.
Starwood, to bring this kind of full circle, what Marriott has done very well over the last couple of years is they've been really good about, maintaining standard and differentiating their product and things along those lines to say a Marriott is this, a JW is this, a Renaissance is this. And if they continue that.
But I'll also say one other thing out of business convenience of what happened to them, though. Having previously had clients that the Courtyard, the Residence Inn, and a full flag Marriott are sitting around the same common parking lot.
Oh, sure.
Same landowner. That's the deal got done that way.
And so the people staying at the Marriott can either choose, already having paid more for their room than the other places, which when you look at amenities in a room, there's very slight variations to it. But for whatever reason, they're staying at the full flag Marriott and will walk across the parking lot to Spring Hill for the free breakfast in the morning, and then meet their business partners over at the Courtyard because of the common space. And then they go back to their full flag, wondering why they paid probably the rate they did, but appreciating the fact that they get to walk back to the full flag for maybe a bot dinner or something.
Well, or the ones that are stacked now, right? I think isn't it LA? I think at LA Live.
No, New York has one too.
Yeah, you've got a JW with a Courtyard on the bottom or the top, whatever.
Same check-in window. How weird is that? You walk up and it's like you could be a Courtyard person, you could be a Renaissance person, you could be a full flag.
Yeah.
It's like, and do you get treated different? And should you be treated different? It's just the weird part. But well, you know what? It's already been an hour, and we were supposed to only do a half hour. But I have just I'll keep doing this for a while. Tim, I honestly, it's a joy for you to be on here, dude. Seriously, thank you so much. Robert, always a pleasure to be with this. I guess consider recording it, and I apologize for the problem starting. I'll figure out the technology again later. Tim, for those who are playing back the recording, where can they find you?
They can find me at timpeter.com, and in particular, timpeter.com/blog is where they would probably get started.
Excellent. And Mr. Robert?
You can find me on social media at Robert K. Cole, pretty much everywhere, and rockcheetah.com. And you'll see, actually, I just posted a link here to that Focusrite write-up where it has links to all the participants and their websites and their Twitter handles if you want to go dig into those individual companies from the Focusrite conference.
Perfect. Excellent.
Yeah, you can find it there. So that's good. And
good.
Lauren, you should plug yourself.
Yes, given that circumstances in the world have changed since the last time I had a podcast, I'm at laurengray.com, also hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com, which for the life of me, I haven't put anything on there, so don't go there quite yet. Give it a few days until I put some stuff on there. But my podcast is out there too and everything else. But I hope we could do more of these because I tell you what, I could blow an easy hour just here again talking some more about it. So
and actually, Tim, I think we should regroup next week at this time. Hopefully, Lauren's website will be up and the two of us can critique it.
Oh, damn!
We're still doing that. This is fantastic. Welcome to mybabyisugly.com.
Yes, hey, I'm buying that URL. Hey, listen, a happy Thanksgiving.
No, Tim's more you have a beautiful baby. You have a very unique baby. That's
actually
really some interesting. I love the unique aspects of that baby, where I'm like, kill it with fire.
It's funny you've been saying that all along. I used to have taped to my monitor when I ran websites for several large hotel companies. I had taped to my monitor. This is no joke. A little piece of paper that literally said on it, "Your baby is ugly," because that was my mantra every single day of how do we make this better. So it's funny that you've been using that phrase.
For the hotel industry, and I've used it for a long time because people get so passionate about it and what they're doing. The design, the development aspects, everything. And they love it. And it's like, you're missing this part. I know that's really good, but you got to look at it from the customer's eyes and get some perspective, because that's the only one that's the perspective that matters.
Yeah. I hope we can do this again 12:30 Wednesday next week to Central and Eastern 1:30 and so forth. I think that it'd be a privilege for anybody else to join us if they can get a word in edgewise next time. But the three of us on, good luck to whoever joins, because you're going to have to stand on your ground because you're not going to get any other freebies.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, guys.
Looking forward to next week, and y'all take care. Have a great Thanksgiving.
And happy Thanksgiving. That's right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye now.